Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine the sound of 1,000,000 flippers thudding softly against the sand. The moonlight's reflecting off countless of determined creatures, each following an ancient instinct, an instinct that's older than civilization itself. This is the Arribada, the great arrival of the Olive Ridley turtles on the coast of Odisha, India. For 3 years, I called that coastline home. And as a child, I would stand barefoot in the cool sand, watching the turtles come ashore in waves so synchronized, it almost seemed as if it was choreographed by the ocean itself. And for a 7-year-old me, it was my first lesson in wonder, or in other words, a quiet and humbling understanding that the world is bigger, wiser, and more interconnected than one might think. And at that time, I believed that this spectacle was unique to my corner of India. But I would later realize that the same turtles I saw as a child make another similar arrival on a beach half the world away here in Costa Rica, in a place called Ostional. Olive Ridley turtles are extraordinary navigators. Each year, they travel thousands of kilometers, following their instinct across the world's oceans, yet return to the same stretch of land where they were born. Only a handful of beaches on Earth host these synchronized nesting events, and two of the most important sites for these turtles are Gahirmatha in Odisha and Ostional here in Costa Rica. So last year, when I first stumbled upon a video of Ostional's Arribada, I felt an unexpected sense of, let's say, recognition. It was the same moonlit ritual, it was the same rhythm of life repeating itself on the other side of the world. The turtles, it seemed, were global citizens long before we ever were. Their journey reminded me a little bit of my own. You see, I was born in Kerala, a lush region of southern India known for its backwaters and biodiversity. I also had the privilege of living on the foothills of the great Himalayan mountains in a small but beautiful hill station called Mussoorie, and briefly in the old English town of Oxford. And across the different worlds that I found myself in, there was this one important truth that kept following me around. The places that were richest in life were unfortunately the most vulnerable. Let's take both Costa Rica and India as our examples. They're both global biodiversity hotspots, home to species found nowhere else in the world. And yet, they are under severe threat from global forces like rising temperatures, habitat loss, plastic pollution, and unsustainable tourism. We must realize that the dangers facing the Olive Ridley turtles are no longer a distant or an abstract idea. They're real and happening right now as I speak. Warmer sands mean that almost all turtle hatchlings are born female, which disrupts the natural population balance of these turtles. Rising sea levels erode beaches that have been their nesting grounds for millennia. Furthermore, lights from beachfront hotels disorient the hatchlings, pulling them towards the glow of the buildings instead of the sea. Many of the hatchlings never even make it to the water. And beneath the surface, another invisible threat awaits: plastic waste, which could take the form of bottles, nets, and microfibers that drift into nesting grounds and feeding zones. A floating plastic bag often looks like a jellyfish, which is a turtle's favorite meal. But that one mistake can end up taking a life. Thousands die each year from ingesting or becoming entangled in what we humans so casually throw away every single day. But perhaps the greatest challenge is one we humans created together. Now, this is where you ask, globalization? Did it not benefit us in numerous ways? We often think of it as a story of shared development, technology, trade, and culture. But something we fail to acknowledge is that it's also a story of shared vulnerability. The carbon emitted from one corner of the planet warms the sand in another. The plastic that's thrown away in a city far from the coast drifts into the path of a migrating turtle. Our world is more connected than ever, not only in its progress, but in its problems. Yet, connection can also mean hope. If globalization has linked our crisis, why can it not link our solutions? In Odisha, coastal fishing communities once relied on collecting turtle eggs as a source of food and income. However, following the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, this practice was prohibited by law. Over time, many of these same communities have transformed from harvesters to guardians of the Olive Ridley turtle. During nesting season, they voluntarily suspend fishing activities for several months to protect the turtles and their fragile breeding cycle. To support these efforts, the government provides financial assistance, subsidized food supplies, and other welfare measures during the no fishing period. India's conservation strategy combines community participation with a strong legal framework, like banning hunting, poaching, and trade of turtles and their eggs, enforcing seasoning fishing bans, establishing marine protected areas, and mandating the use of turtle excluder devices, TEDs, on trawlers. It's a model that demonstrates how law and local stewardship can work hand in hand, turning once exploitative practices into a collective effort of preservation. Meanwhile, here in Costa Rica, conservation took a different shape. The country made a bold choice decades ago to link its economic prosperity to the health of its environment. Ecotourism transformed biodiversity into both a moral and economic asset. For example, protecting turtles became not only the right thing to do, but also a source of livelihood. So tourists who come to visit the Arribada help sustain local jobs and finance conservation programs. India's strength lies in its collective spirit of community, and Costa Rica's lies in its sustainable and economic model. So what if we could bring them together? The spirit of community in Odisha and the vision of Costa Rica. What if local guardianship and global sustainability could coexist? It would be, I think, an Arribada of ideas, a gathering not just of turtles, but of wisdoms, meeting at the shores of shared purpose. And this brings me to us. You may not live near a turtle's nest. You may have never even seen or heard of an Arribada before today, but you're connected to one. Through the things you buy, the energy you use, the voices that you amplify, and the choices that you make. Every small act, which goes from reducing plastic use to supporting sustainable companies, helps restore the balance to the same web of life that sustains us all. As students, professionals, and citizens of a global age, we're all part of this living network. Being surrounded by people from so many different places has taught me something important, that diversity, whether in culture, ecosystems, or ideas, isn't an obstacle that we have to overcome. It's our source of strength, a reminder of how interconnected we are and how much we stand to lose if we fail to protect the very thing that makes our world so richly alive. If our generation can embrace that lesson, we can build a new kind of globalization, one rooted not in consumption, but in cooperation. The Olive Ridley turtle has navigated the Earth's oceans for millions of years. Its compass is ancient and unwavering. No matter the distance, no matter the storm, it's always been able to find its way home. And maybe that's what we need to do, find our way back home, not to a single place, but to a shared planet, alive with connections that stretch from Odisha to Ostional, from human hands to flippers, from the past to the future. I remember the scene from when I was 7 again, standing on the beach in Odisha, watching the sand come alive under the moonlight as the turtles emerged from the sea. Years later, I saw the same scene unfold in Costa Rica. It was the same moon, it was the same quiet persistence of life. And somewhere between these two shores, I grew up. And in that growing, I realized that home had never been a place. It was something we built and protected together, tide after tide. And I sincerely hope that when another child stands on the shore that I stood on one day, watching the same turtles that I did, may they inherit not only our mistakes, but the world that we chose to protect together. Thank you.